So it's 1 o'clock according to my computer. Welcome back to this session, or I guess welcome back to the breakout sessions. And so far as it's been going, I think a really interesting conference. So I'm really excited to introduce our next speaker, Leslie Jones. Leslie's no stranger to Wisconsin. She was here last year when we had this event at Lambeau Field. We got our picture. I still have that, Leslie, of our with the field behind us, so we could, prove that we're actually at Lambeau Field. So I appreciate you coming back virtually to talk about, smart strategies for financially savvy youth. Just as a way of introduction, Leslie Jones is a youth financial education analyst at the CFPB, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. She is a former business teacher, instructional designer, curriculum supervisor, and developer. She advises on the benefits of K-12 financial education and the challenges of developing a program. She supports national approaches to build and incorporate personal finance topics, K-12 courses. So you can see the rest of her bio in your handout. A lot of degrees and masters. So we really appreciate your insight and your experience, Leslie. So with that, take it away. And I have to apologize. I can only stay for maybe 20 minutes and then I have to step out for a different meeting, unfortunately, with virtual connections. That people know you can do that. So so that's where I'll step out, unfortunately, but looking forward to your words today. Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you, Dave. Really appreciate it. So the question I like to ask right here at the top is, how many of you have been to the CFPB website before? How many of you have visited consumerfinance.gov previously? You could just type in the chat yes or no if you visited the site. That'll help me know a little bit more about you. So Dora, what are they telling me?
No, most of them no. I have one yes.
Okay, perfect. That helps to let me know what I need to tell you about the Bureau. All right, so I have to give this disclaimer. The disclaimer says that this presentation was not pre-recorded for your listening enjoyment, but it instead is being given to you live, and so is somewhat unscripted, and they just want to make sure you have that warning ahead of time. All right, so now background on the Bureau. The next question I have for you is this: what age groups do you work with primarily? What age groups do you primarily work with? You can let me know in the chat, I'd appreciate it.
Looks like almost all of us are high school.
Okay, perfect. That helps me out. I won't spend as much time on my little people stuff.
Yeah,
all
it
right,
looks like
so
we're all high school.
Perfect. So let me tell you a little bit about the Bureau. The Bureau is 9 years old. It was created after the housing collapse in 2008, 2009. And the Bureau was stood up after the Dodd-Frank Act became law and brought together a variety of resources that the federal government was already doing, but also a mandate to do more. And this is our mission and vision on this slide. And the thing I'd like to point out about the mission is the statement that says, to educate and empower consumers to make better informed financial decisions. Because that's the focus of what my office does in the Bureau. And I'll give you some examples. So the COVID happened, the CARES Act was created, and it's just a very large, unwieldy piece of legislation. So what the Bureau has done is we have our coronavirus page, and on it we give plain language information on mortgage forbearance, so who qualifies, how do you do it, how does it work, all those kind of questions. We also answer questions, for example, student loan deferments. People were very confused about the dates for that, how it happened. For one of my children, his friends had problems because they noticed their credit scores were dropping and wondered to know how. So they were able to come to our complaint database and enter their information and have some follow-up. Excuse me. We ended up having the we ended up being able to get the credit reporting agencies to fix their scoring models so that people who had the automatic student loan deferment did not have that affect their credit scores. And of course, student loans are now deferred through the end of this calendar year, so people still have a little more time to get the benefits of that payment that doesn't have to be made. And then also we have information, say, for example, on credit reports, the fact that you can get your credit report free every week now, not just every year, every week through April 2021. So those are some of the things that we made sure that the public could understand from this law that was created and all that unwieldy legislation. All right, so when the Bureau was stood up and people started looking at how can we help people be more empowered and more educated about their financial opportunities, we asked ourselves the question that's on the screen: what is financial well-being? And before I show you what our answer is, I'd like to ask you a question that I'd like to have you answer in the chat. The question is, what messages about money did you receive as a child from adults? I'll read it again. What messages about money did you receive as a child from adults? Dora, what are they telling me?
Money doesn't grow on trees. Save, save, save. We can't afford it. There wasn't much to spend wisely and only on what, or there wasn't much to spend wisely and only on what you need. Every buying decision should be thought out. You are going to need it.
Very good. You guys got a lot of positive messages. I'm quite impressed. One of my favorite messages of all time was the message that said, you can write checks as long as you have checks in the checkbook. And the message I received at home was that we don't talk to children about money. With the variety of messages that children receive, it's not surprising that then the way that they manage their money is different. And that was what the Bureau tried to address by trying to figure out what adult financial well-being looked like. The definition that's here on the screen is what the Bureau came up with. And I'm not going to read it to you, but I am going to interpret it in my own way. And that is to tell you that I think that it's basically saying it's not about how much you earn, it's about how you feel about managing your money. And so what's great to me about this is we hear about the athletes that, you know, make millions of dollars a year and somehow are broke or in debt. And then you hear about the people who maybe make just over minimum wage and somehow manage to leave a legacy, a scholarship program when they pass away or something like that that's meaningful. And you can't figure out how they were able to do that. Well, it's because they had financial well-being. It wasn't about how much money they were bringing in. It was about how they felt about it, how well they managed it, and how much it allowed them to do the things they wanted in their lives. For you, your idea of leaving a legacy might be that you're going to make sure that your kids go to college debt-free. Maybe for you, financial well-being is that girls' trip that you normally take every year and you haven't been able to take this year. So people have different ideas of financial well-being. It's getting that house paid off. All sorts of different things might be people's well-being, but it's your individual thoughts and desires that are really important. We also identified these 4 elements of adult financial well-being as having control over your day-to-day and month-to-month finances. It's having the capacity to absorb a financial shock. It's having the financial freedom to make choices that will allow you to enjoy your life. And it's being on track to meet your financial goals. To explain these a little bit more, I'm going to give you an example. Last year, we got the results of a FINRA study, and this FINRA study said that a large percent of Americans could not afford a $400 emergency. Now I'm going to ask you if in the chat you can tell me what you think that percentage was. What percent of Americans could not afford a $400 emergency in 2019? Dora, what are they telling me?
Dora, I think your mic is on mute.
I'm sorry. Okay, 45%, 45%, 85%, 60%, 75%, 75%, and 90%.
Okay, wow, a big range there. The number was 40%, so that you know. So it was a little bit lower on the range, but at the same time, incredibly notable. 4 out of 10 Americans not being able to have the capacity to absorb a financial shock of $400 is something to make note of. And then 2020 happened, COVID happened. And this statistic that Finra was mentioning, suddenly we had the proof of it. The smallest amount of money was making huge differences in people's lives. And we recognize the fact that, yes, there's a problem, and yes, we need to address it. But what the Bureau has done as part of their identifying what adult financial well-being is they said to themselves, we need to know how we get kids to be adults with adult financial well-being. And in doing that research, they've identified these 3 building blocks of youth financial capability. And they are having, kids need to have executive functioning skills. We need to develop their financial habits and norms, and we need to develop their financial knowledge and decision-making skills. And what I think is really cool about this is we can start working on this when they're 3 years old. We can start building their executive functioning skills. That's helping to teach them how to have self-control, planning, problem solving. To continue with the COVID theme, the executive functioning is that skill that we have that tells us to remain physically distant from people, to tell yourself no, and to make plans for the future, even though it might be hard and there might not be anything certain that we can define. And that's what gets us to eventually have the savings that we need in order to buy a home, to buy a car, to retire, all sorts of different things. And so executive functioning skills don't have to do with your ability to do math, but your ability to tell yourself no and to plan for the future. So we can start working with kids on this skill at the age of 3 to 5. The beauty of it is you can keep working on it for your entire lifetime. So it starts there, but it continues for your lifetime. The second building block of financial habits and norms, this one I think is one of the more unique ones, but one of the ones as an educator we can really help with. And that's helping kids develop healthy money habits, norms, and rules of thumb. For example, you probably have a rule of thumb for paying a bill. Some people pay their bills when they arrive in the house. Some people pay bills when at the beginning of the month or the end of the month or when they get paid. So you probably have a rule of thumb for it. You probably don't even really think about it, but at the same time, your rule of thumb might not be the exact same as somebody else. Let me ask you this. This can be something else to think about. Won't have you type it in the chat. So I'm curious, do you have the exact same financial habits and norms as your siblings? If you have siblings, and if you don't, are they the same as your parents? So are your financial habits and norms the same as your siblings or your parents? Usually when I ask this question and people think about it, the answer they give me is no. And that is, I think, what's really important to realize is that even the people in your inner circle, you might manage money differently. And so as educators, it's really important for us to work with these kids on figuring out what their financial habits and norms are. What are they going to prioritize when it comes to spending money or saving money? I'll give you an example of myself, and that's when I was teaching, we got a new principal one year, and it was when I was in my 30s. We got a new principal, and he came in, and we had just started getting 403B accounts, and he was all excited about them, telling us how important they were and how we needed to do them and sign up for them. And I'm like, my parents taught me that if I could get a pension, I was golden. I don't need whatever that thing is. And I kept ignoring his suggestions. But at every faculty meeting, he kept challenging us. Have you signed up yet? Have you signed up yet? Have you signed up yet? And I got so tired of not being able to raise my hand that I finally just signed up so I'd be able to join in with the crowd and raise my hand. And the end of the year, I get my statement and I look down at how much I've managed to save, given the fact that I didn't really miss the money out of my check. And I was sold. And I made my husband sign up because he was a teacher also. I made him sign up in his school district. And suddenly retirement, saving for this thing that was going to happen, you know, in 20, 30 years, it was a priority for me. And I'm ever so grateful to him for changing my mindset about retirement. But my financial habit and norm, you notice this says a sweet spot of teaching it in middle childhood when they're 6 to 12. Well, maybe that might be a good time to start teaching financial habits and norms, but we can change people's financial habits and norms through their lifetime. So I just like to make that point because it is not something that we should give up on. And then financial knowledge and decision-making skills. Those are those factual knowledge, the research skills that we need, the ability to comparison shop, the ability to be able to recognize trusted sources of information. So I like to make sure that you're aware of that being there. All right, and by the way, we already do this. We do the third building block usually pretty well already. All right, so we've broken our resources down into 3 groups: young children, school-age children, and teens. What I'd like to ask you at this time for the chat is, what are your go-to places to locate resources for your classroom? What are your go-to places to locate resources for your classroom? Dora, what are they telling me? You're on mute again, Dora.
Trying to not make it have any background noise. So sorry about that. NGPF, conferences, books, internet, colleagues, peers, bank rate,
Okay.
podcasts.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Those are all solid recommendations, and I'll throw in the Fed, Federal Reserve Education.org has resources also, so I'll just mention them. We've been doing some webinars with them recently, so definitely can recommend them. All right, so I'm going to go through this next section.
Local banks.
Was where?
Local banks.
Of local banks, absolutely. They can bring in some great speakers and things like that. All right, so I'm going to go through this section pretty fast because it is for my little people section, and since I don't have TP teachers of little people, we'll go through this very quickly. I do want to mention our Money As You Grow site. It's for parents and caregivers. So if you're a parent or you work with parents or you have students that are looking for community service, the bones of a community service project, then this website takes our research, the building blocks, things like that, and translates it for parents to give them money conversation starters for them to speak with their children. Because quite often as parents, we weren't ever taught how to teach financial literacy skills to our kids. And so being able to get some good tips on how to do that can be helpful. So our Money As You Grow site can help with that. And there's activities on there that you can do that are very simple. And one of my favorite components of it is the Money As You Grow bookshelf. It has 21 books that are commonly found in libraries. Berenstain Bears Trouble with Money, Curious George Saves His Pennies. One of the stories is a Native American family. One of the stories is a Chinese American family. We have 2 Spanish language titles. So there's also some nice variety in these books. And what is great about people who go to the library and get one of these books is they can order or download one of our parent guides, And in the guides, it tells you what the general story is, what the key financial literacy topics are in the story, gives the parents some things to think about, some things to do before they read, some things to talk about while they read, and then things that they can do to extend the learning based on the age of their child. So the parent guides are completely free and can be acquired from our website, and also something that are really useful. So then on our financial education web page, this is what I call our portal to our information on teaching financial education, learning about the building blocks, accessing financial capability skills, and our research that we've done on a variety of topics. And once you delve in, this is one of my favorite places. This is the area where you can find youth financial literacy activities. Because what happened when we first came out with this research is I'd go and tell people about it, and they're like, we really like these building blocks, but how do I bring the building blocks into my classroom? And I said, I accept your challenge. And we started developing these financial literacy activities. We now have 251 activities on our website, K through 12. And one of the unique components to our financial literacy activities, first of all, they're just one-day activities. They're 15-minute activities, 45-minute activities, and 80-minute activities. One of the unique parts is that they're also, you can filter by school subject. So they're written for every content area. You can be an English teacher, a math teacher, a PE teacher, a science teacher, a world language teacher, and find an activity that you can do in your classroom, depending on your grade level, to teach financial literacy skills. One of the examples of the science one is we have a lesson on Energy Star savings and calculating the savings that you have based on the appliances that you're using and their wattage and things like that. And so you're bringing, and how I can lower my electric bill based on my improving the amount of electricity that I use and things like that, the amount of energy I use in my home. So the nice part is that if a teacher is a science teacher, they're interested in bringing financial literacy, but they just don't know how they can get started by doing this. One of the things I love about it as a teacher of financial literacy, to try to get more people in my school to do it, is that hopefully if this other teachers are dabbling in it, the kids might say, I really like this, I'd like to do more with it. And somebody will recommend that they take your course in which you're offering more of this kind of information. But these activities are designed for people who are new to teaching financial literacy, and also for experienced teachers who just want to reinforce or enrich specific topics that the kids want more of or are not understanding quite as well as you might like. So when you search or you filter for activities, you're going to look at these little, call them our activity detail cards, and they just give a lot of little information about it. They tell you how long it's going to take, and they let you know what the key information is. But if you're really interested in it, you need to click on the link and you need to see what the activity detail page looks like. And this is an example of that page, and it gives you much more information. It gives you actually pretty much all the information you would need to fill out the lesson plan. We even have the Bloom's taxonomy level here. So it's got everything. And it's the big idea, the essential questions, what the objectives of the lesson, what the students will do in a broad overview. And then at the bottom of these pages, you'll have your downloads. There's always a teacher guide download. It's usually about 3 to 5 pages long, unless it's including an answer key or student materials. And then there might be a student worksheet and or student handout that's part of an activity. But that's it. We keep it really simple, concise, things like that. And this is one of our most popular activities. So if you come to the site and you're like, I don't know where to start, look for our creating a buying plan activity. It's one of our most popular, so hopefully you too might like it. All right, so let's do an activity. All right, let's see what these are like. Okay, so this activity is protecting your Social Security number. It is a super fast one. It's only about 15 minutes long. And the goal and purpose of it is to maybe add to a unit on taxes, because you'll have to deal with your Social Security number when you file your taxes. Or maybe it's going to be as part of a unit on identity theft, fraud, something along those lines. And you just need a quick warm-up starter, check in on one of the days. But let's go ahead and do this one together. In the chat, you'll type in true or false in response to these questions I asked you. Here's the first question. Social Security numbers aren't important. Social Security numbers aren't important. True or false?
Everybody's doing false.
Okay, all right, wonderful. All right, the next question. Sometimes it's okay to share my Social Security number. Sometimes it's okay to share my Social Security number. True or false?
Everyone's putting false right now.
Okay, the answer, and I'm going to read my legal department's approved explanation. The answer is true. It says sometimes you'll have to share your number. For example, when you get a job, rent an apartment, open a bank account, or apply for a credit card, you may need to share your Social Security number. Always ask why someone needs your number, how it will be used, and what will happen if you refuse. All right, and the last one. If someone uses my Social Security number, I'll find out right away. If someone uses my Social Security number, I'll find out right away. True or false?
Everybody's putting false.
That is correct. Yeah, thank you. It is false. All right, so let's try another one. Actually, this one I'm going to try. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about it. So this one is one for middle school, but I think it's middle school into high school. And so I really should do this one on the fast side. So with this one, the kids really like it because what you do is you're talking to them about how they can turn. You talk about the gig economy. You talk about side hustles, and then you talk about how they might be able to turn some of their hobbies into earnings, and without having that official job title. The example I use is for my kids when they were in middle school, they were really enjoying playing soccer. So what I did was I had each of them get training to be referees. And then what they were able to do when, after they got that training, that certification, they were able to referee the younger kids' games and make some money in the fall and spring during the season. And eventually be able to pay for all sorts of little incidentals that they wanted from the money that they were earning and that didn't have to come out of my pocketbook. And I'd like to think that it taught them some good skills for when they become adults. But this is a conversation you can start having with the kids, figure things out. I mean, I have a friend who he has his full-time Monday through Friday job, and on the weekends he goes plays with his band at a winery and makes some extra money, does that side hustle, brings in extra income. So just talking to kids about it, helping them figure out what they might activities that they might enjoy, that they're good at, that they might be able to make money from, can be a great little activity or lesson that you can do with them. I'm going to skip exploring governmental agencies because it's for younger kids, and same thing for singing a song about savings. But, you know, when I sing this song, it's really fun. And then there's creating household budget. I'm going to go through that one. So now, I had stuff in here for people that were teaching younger ones in case you were here. All right, meanwhile, let me tell you about our Youth Financial Capability Survey. Focus groups have told us that they like this survey tool because it's not about facts, but it's instead about how students feel about managing money. And for example, let me read you one of the questions. One of the questions asks, I ask myself if something is a need or want before buying it. I don't care if other people have more money than I do. I spend a lot of time thinking about how what I do today will affect me in the future. So it's how they feel about their money, so it's if you can't figure it out, it's talking to them about their 3 building blocks. We ask questions about their executive functioning skills, about their development of their financial habits and norms. And we do ask them questions about financial knowledge and decision-making skills, but on a broad scheme, not by actually doing math. And when they finish with the scoring, we show them we give them a score on this continuum, beginning, developing, proficient, and advanced. And then you can use that, and they can use that to figure out, is there more work that they want to do to continue to improve their skills? And this will be, right now it's a fillable PDF, and so it's useful, like all of our stuff is a fillable PDF, but my work in this fiscal year, by this time next year, it will be an interactive online version of it. So hopefully you might take a look at it now, but come back and look at it next year when it becomes an online interactive tool. All right, the other thing that we have that's new that I like to point out to people is this page. It is our building block activity resource list. It makes it easy to see what external resources we've used or that we reference in our activities. And if you're, say, looking for something to, for investment, for teaching investments or something like that, you can see what we've used and maybe go off and use it for yourself or something else that you might want to teach or that you might need to teach. So this is just a quick little summary list of some resources that we've used and that we feel like we can recommend. And another tool that's here, that's on our website, but I don't have on a slide, is our glossary. We have a financial education glossary of plain language terms that we use in our activities. And it is an incredibly popular page on our site. It's one of the most visited pages. I think people must be bookmarking it because so many people are using it. So if you're looking for a financial education glossary, type in a search engine, CFPB Financial Education Glossary. I think you'll find the page and hopefully would be able to use it, enjoy it, or share it. I will talk about our Money Monster stuff later because that is for the younger kids. All right, so one of the things I was asked to talk about is financial inclusion. Through the PISA data, we are learning more about the impact of socioeconomic status on the development of financial literacy skills. So what do we mean by financial inclusion? So most families do participate in the financial marketplace. It is what products they use that differs. Their products differ based on their socioeconomic status. For example, see if some of these products sound familiar. Payday loans, being unbanked, investment firms. Those are all financial products, services, problems, but with very different audiences. The person out getting a payday loan is also a person who's probably not seeking an investment firm, or and people who are seeking investment firms are probably often also not unbanked. So financial inclusion is having availability to financial products, access to financial products, and really importantly, education about products and what will be useful to them. And it's important to note that financial inclusion is a spectrum. Typically, someone is not entirely included or excluded, but people have differing levels of access to products that meet their needs based on how much they have to work with, I want to say. One of the things that a story that I heard this year was that pawn shops were facing, I want to say, a crisis of sorts in the fact that their stock had gone down and that fewer people were coming in to turn stuff in, but instead were coming in to redeem items. The money that they had received from the CARES Act allowed, and the things that they weren't doing because they were stuck at home, allowed them to actually get items back, and they didn't have quite the need to go out and turn stuff in order to get temporary cash and things like that. So these costs to make transactions, this burden, things like that, that was something that had changed as part of what had been going on in our COVID environment. Now, how does financial inclusion help people? And by the way, the numbers that are up there are not sequential. It's not necessarily a timeline. It's just 6 different things that financial inclusion, how financial inclusion helps people. Financial inclusion helps people make the most of their money that best meets their financial needs. And some examples, so if you notice this number 3 says strategically save. And I was hoping that you might be able to use the chat to tell me if you can think of some examples of saving strategically. Could you use the chat to hopefully identify some ways that people might be able to save strategically?
Pay yourself first. Payroll deduction, so the money is taken out first. Portion of your check into direct deposit and automatic withdrawal.
Very good. That is correct. One of the things I don't think I heard that I also love are the automatic tools that round up for you and like move money into like savings or something like that by rounding it up. If you spent $9.58, then the what gets you to $10 is put into, say, your savings account or something like that. So that automatic roll up can happen. But financial inclusion helps to improve people's cash flow. It helps them build good credit. It helps them strategically save. It helps them be in control of their debt. It allows them connection to the financial markets and make a better informed decisions. So often people just don't know what their options are, and that's why they're not making the same decisions necessarily that you would. But let's show what we know. So we have these statistics. We talked about this earlier. 4 in 10 adults would have difficulty covering a $400 emergency. 8.4 or 6.5 million households are unbanked, or excuse me, 6.5% of American households are unbanked. An additional 24.2 million U.S. households are underbanked. The unbanked and underbanked are more likely to have low income, less education, and be part of a racial or ethnic minority group. And 2/5 of these unbanked adults have used some form of alternate financial service. I was mentioning earlier, payday loans, prepaid cards, things like that. And lower income adults are more likely to have difficulty accessing credit. So what we're trying to do to help. Now this is, we've recognized that some recent trends in financial inclusion include use of mobile technology to access accounts and financial information. By having, so many of us can now get our credit scores by virtue of our credit cards, and we're given scores on a monthly basis when we get that, and we're able to sit and play with those scores in order to figure out if I increase this or decrease this, how does it affect my score? And so you're starting to figure that out. Some of the starter credit products that are out there in terms of credit builder loans, those really help people. And then we talked about the automatic savings program, prize linked savings. I think that would be like the IDD account, matching savings, goal focused savings, things like that. And education, being able to know more allows you to do more. One of the interesting COVID statistics is that trends are changing significantly now in 2020 with fewer people going to financial institutions in person. So there are some skills and techniques that people are learning because of it. But one of the other exciting things is because people were receiving the checks from the federal government and suddenly they had this extra money on hand, what they did, or that they wanted to get their money and they wanted to get it automatically transferred, people who were unbanked suddenly were seeking to join a financial institution so the money could be transferred to them electronically, simply. And people who had always made sure that they went into their financial institution in person suddenly learned those skills that allow them to access it from a distance. And when you can access it frequently, you can keep a better track on what's there, what isn't there, and manage your money better. All right, so along with that, again, what CFPB is doing to help, we have our coronavirus homepage, which I already mentioned to you, and this page has blogs, which are translated into multiple languages, including Spanish, Chinese, both traditional and simplified, Vietnamese and Korean. We have videos on mortgage forbearance if you can't pay your bills, resources for renters, and EIP tips. There's weekly emails that were being sent on various topics and a lot of social media messaging. So if you've got people that are seeking assistance on the coronavirus in terms of the financial impact, and they're seeking information on what to do or what their options are, please recommend that they try our coronavirus page. And the other thing that we offer to people are these, what we call our money topic portals. We have a money topic portal on starting small, saving up, on community credit profiles, which allows you to see what granular data in terms of what's going on at your in your community in terms of their credit usage, how to improve tax time savings, what you can and cannot do if somebody is trying to collect a debt from you, trying to save for college, trying to save for an auto or a home loan. Those are, again, money topic portals. And there's also stuff on payday loans, bank accounts, things like frauds and scams, a variety of things like that. So these money topic portals can also help. And then this wonderful toolkit, if you've never seen it, it's called Your Money, Your Goals. And they're these booklets that you can order and have and use with, you're probably not going to use it with your kiddos because they're on topics like behind on bills, debt getting in your way, but the wanting to have credit work for you, building savings might be able to be used with teenagers, but it's definitely more for a young adult audience. And then there's some additional companion guides on working with Native communities, working with people with criminal records, and working with people with disabilities. And so those guides are something that are incredibly useful. And if you have people that are working with these populations, please let them know these guides are out there, because they can be ordered for free or downloaded for free. And we've been told by many, many people are incredibly useful. All right. So, all right, I'll see if you have any questions on financial inclusion in just a moment. I want to finish off with just a couple more resources. I'm going to go back to one activity just because I wanted to end on something a little bit more fun than the topic of financial inclusion. And this is a tool that we have called the Money Circle Toolkit. The Money Circle Toolkit is meant for adults, and it's a way to get people to think differently about their money. And I took a look at it and I said, oh, team, I want a kiddo version of this. So we've got about 3 or 4 activities that are dealing with our Money Circle Toolkit. This was one of our faster ones. It's just a 10 or 15-minute activity. And it's a chance for us to talk to the kiddos about the fact that the money circle, your money circle is your family members, friends, or other people in your life who influence your decisions about money. So in the chat, I'd like you to tell me, who are the people who influence your money choices the most? Are they your family members, your friends, or is it other people? Who are the people who influence your money choices the most? Are they your friends, your family members, or other people? Can you let me know in the chat?
Friends, family, spouse, family.
So I'm the only person that said other when I was talking about my retirement guidance being other. I would only put my family in order to say that what I do as a general rule of thumb is if I have a financial question, I'll go to my family and I ask them what their thoughts are about the topic. And once they tell me what their answer would be, I pretty much go out and do the exact opposite. So that's how my family has impacted me. Is I've learned, no, I'm not going to do that, you know, so they're very helpful that way. And I'm sitting there going, A, B, you know, they're able to help, you know, focus me where I need to go. So, so that's the conversation that you can have with the kids, is to help them start thinking about it, because it's so important to say to yourself, well, if I've been saving for something for a really long time, but I'm feeling that itch to want to spend some money, who should I talk to? Well, look down at the bottom row here. These are our categories of people. We say that people are savers, spenders, planners, they're impulsive, they're worriers, or they're confident. So if you're having that, trying to decide on, well, should I stay saving what I'm saving, or should I go and spend a little bit of it? And you look down here and you're like, so do I go talk to my impulsive spender friend, or do I go talk to my saver friend? Hello, you know, you pretty much made your decision by who you've gone and talked to in your money circle, right? If you go talk to your impulsive or spender friend, they're going to encourage you to spend a little on yourself, because that'll be fun. And so in the activity, stop and the kiddos are asked questions like, if someone surprised you with a gift of $100 in cash, what would you do with it? If someone surprised you with a gift of $100 in cash, what would you do with it? Or who do you usually talk to when you have a decision to make about money? Or is the way you save or spend money the same or different from your friends or family? Those kinds of questions you're asking the kids and getting them to start think about, well, what are my financial habits and norms? How do they differ from other people's? And why do I like what my decisions are? And then we have Ask CFPB. Ask CFPB is 1,000 answers to frequently asked questions about topics about credit cards, mortgages, prepaid cards, student loans, money transfers, etc. And we also, and I love this part of our page, is CFPB bulk publications. They are, so if you've ever gone to a warehouse store and you go in, you're looking for 1 or 2 items, and then somehow when you get to the registers, you manage to have a cart full of stuff, and you can't quite figure out how that happened. The good thing is that similarity to the warehouse store ends because you get to the registers and they're like, well, if you give us your name and address, we'll send everything on your cart right to your front door at absolutely no cost to you. And so have everything be free and have everything delivered right to your front door is such a deal that hopefully you'll visit our bulk publication site and find something that's useful to you. Not only do we have our new youth education materials, our posters on understanding credit scores, what is debt, what is insurance, what is your money style, and how to read a pay stub. But you also have things on managing someone else's money for those of us that have to do that, Money Smart for older adults, mortgages, tax time savings, a variety of things. And so if you haven't visited our CFPB bulk publication site, most of you said you had not visited cs.gov before, please think about trying to stop and do that. And of course, you can always follow us on social media, on Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn. So now, time for me to ask, are there any questions?
Everybody's quiet.
I know. And that's fine. I just like to say that I know I just presented you a lot of information. I hope that what you got from this is that the CFPB has a lot of stuff, probably more stuff than you realize that we had. And that if you haven't checked this out, please do so, because even if you don't find something for yourself, you might find something that you want to share with someone. My sister this morning was just reaching out going, my son's teachers just started teaching financial literacy, and is there anything that I can suggest to her? And I'm like, yes. So I sent a link to our activities. And when I finally realized that I needed to start helping my mother manage her money, I was like, I don't know how to do this. I wish there was some guidance. And then later I started working at the Bureau, and I'm like, managing someone else's money, that's the topic I needed. So it's amazing how useful a lot of this information can be. In our consumer complaint database, having some place to go to complain, to get solutions for the problems you're having with your mortgages, credit cards, or financial institutions is nice to know. And it's also a great place to go and check out the consumer complaint database and find out what is going on in your community. You could probably build a whole activity off of that alone, and have the kiddos know that there is some place to go to find out, are there other people complaining about this mortgage company or this financial institution? Is it just me, or are other people having these experiences and we need to do something?
There was one question. Will you be developing materials specific to college-age students?
Oh, I am so sorry. I didn't mention we have a grad path tool. It's called consumerfinance.gov/grad path. And that tool helps high school students and college students interpret their financial aid offers and be able to figure out what the best path to them is for funding their college degree. And so it helps you figure out, it's like just a variety of things, answers a lot of questions. But we have a whole section on our website called Paying for College. So if you're looking at how to manage your college funds, if you're looking for, again, how to help you pay for college, how to help repay those loans once you've had them, there are a bunch of activities for that. And in terms of my materials, we say that they're good through probably about age 19 or 20. So a lot of them could be used for the younger college age student also. This whole idea of figuring out who your money circle is and how to pay with credit cards, how to build your credit, all those kind of different things are still things that you can teach to younger college students who are 18 and 20 years old. And the FDIC has some curriculum. Yeah, the FDIC also has a curriculum for that age set, and I think that they're working on updating it, so they are too. And there'll be some other stuff that comes out. Any other questions?
They're just
I want to thank you
you.
very much. Okay, thank you very much for giving me your time. I know that you guys are all going above and beyond trying to support the kids when you probably need support also. And so thank you for taking time out of your day to do this and be here, and we really appreciate it. So have a great weekend and take care of yourselves. We appreciate you.